So we are going to start with each candidate has 2 minutes to introduce yourselves and include why you're running for office and why the disability vote is important to you. We're going to start with Mario Bravo.
Thank you, Irma. My name is Mario Bravo. I'm a project manager with the nonprofit organization Energy Environmental Defense Fund. I'm a community advocate and a coalition builder. I'm running for D1 to improve quality of life at the neighborhood level, increase accountability and transparency, and create a meaningful public participation or public partnership process that gives you a greater voice in your government. I understand when it's time to raise my voice and when it's time to pass the microphone. The disability community deserves a council member who is an active listener and sees you as a valuable partner. I'm committed to working with Disability SA and directly with members of the disability community. And I'm going to lean on you in order to keep me informed so that I may best serve you. My job is going to be to listen, to build strong coalitions, and work with, not against, my fellow council members to build consensus and leverage all the city's resources to address our greatest challenges. Amplifying the voices of those who are too often ignored and left behind is the North Star of my campaign. I look forward to answering questions and listening to the concerns from members of Disability SA, and I hope to earn your support tonight. Again, I'm Mario Bravo, running for City Council District 1, and I believe we're stronger when we work together.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mario. Our next candidate is Lauro Bustamante.
Hello, I'm Lauro Bustamante. I'm running for District 1 City Council. A little bit about my background. I've been practicing law in San Antonio here for like 37 years. I've represented people in all the courts. I've done a lot of municipal work, administrative hearings, tickets. Domestic violence is something new that's coming up. I've seen a lot of differences between the municipal courts, the county courts, the district courts. And I think we need to bring the legal system or the municipal legal system in line, at least with the state and the federal level. What this means to the disability community is that there's a lot of laws on the books that are not being followed on the municipal level. So one of my ideas is to set up a legal aid office to inform the disability constituents that of their rights. Also get together with the federal agencies that provide support for the disability constituents and help them make a better life for people with disabilities. I think the legal system that we have has many years of experience, legislative experience, and a lot of laws that are there to benefit the disability. We just need to tap those laws, inform the providers, and provide those benefits to the disabled. So I bring to the table my legal experience, and I do a lot of pro bono work, and I've been elected to office for the Edwards Aquifer. So I'm familiar with the system, and I think I can best serve District 1. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next candidate is Matthew Gauna.
Hello. Is my mic working? Had some trouble in the past. I'm a native of San Antonio, Texas. Growing up in San Antonio has provided me the needed perspective to solve the city, the issues that the city currently faces. I graduated from the STEM Academy in NEISD, provided me with a strong foundation in biology, science, and technology. I attended UTSA, where I studied biology and environmental science. We definitely need someone at the helm in City Council who can be directing, environmental progressive issues. In 2017, I adopted a spot through the Adopt a Spot program. I've been taking care of that with my group of fellow students and at UTSA, SAC, et cetera. We've been taking care of that since 2017. And just recently in 2019, we partnered with Basura Bash to expand the pool of volunteers. And we are now in our third year of working with the organization to clean our city. Through my studies in community service, a common denominator became evident as a reason for the lack of environmental accessibility and the economic disparity in our city, as well as the potential solution to those issues, the city government. Over the past 2 years, my team and I have been working on solutions for the issues that face our city and are ready to implement them. The COVID-19 crisis and winter storm show San Antonio needs a leader that commands a great scientific knowledge to properly care for our citizens and ensure our health and well-being is our city's government's top priority. Thank you.
Thank you. Roberto Treviño.
Thank you, Irma. I'm Roberto Treviño. I'm your city councilman for District 1. I've held this role for 6.5 years. I'm proud to have served in that tenure and want to continue to do so. We've passed more policy than any other council member in that time period and want to continue to do the great work that we've done. I'm running on my record of accomplishments, many of which really, truly include issues of accessibility. In fact, one of the first things that I made sure to do is make my field office a truly accessible office. The next was to notice that City Hall, as we all know, was not accessible. We worked a lot with the late great Judy Babbitt, and of course our D1 representative, Ann Larmy, to make sure that we tackled something that city staff and city management said was impossible. Well, you can look at City Hall today, and today it's a truly ultra accessible place because I worked in partnership with Gordon Hartman. Gordon Hartman has been a champion in so many ways and is a close personal friend. I couldn't thank him enough, but we were able to innovate and create a project that is a model to follow. Most of the projects that we've done downtown, from sidewalks to the river barges, are all accessible. And that's because we've been focused on solutions, focused on policy that puts ultra accessibility at the forefront. I believe in a motto called City by Design. And that motto is about doing things on purpose, not by accident. And there's ways we can get there. I want to continue to be your council member. Thank you.
Sir. And finally, our last candidate is Raymond Zavala.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Raymond Zavala, and I'm running for city council because I have been a very strong advocate for the senior citizens, the disabled, the youth, and the veterans since 2001. I am a 25-year retired disabled amputee from the U.S. military. So I know what it's like to be neglected. I've seen things that are wrong with the main building access on the east end of City Hall. In fact, I've even turned in a proposal asking that a rail system be installed instead of that 3-inch high curb light on the inclined sidewalk. To me, the most important thing that a council person should do is listen. Not just hear what people say, but to listen and act on those suggestions. Investigate and refine the actions and get it done right. I have always been for the people. It's not about me in any fashion. All I want to do is to serve the city of San Antonio, the residents of District 1. I believe in full accountability, complete transparency, and fiscal responsibility. And I hope that you will consider me to represent not only District 1, but those that are like me, disabled. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We are now going into the question portion of the panel. We have 4 pre-selected questions, and then we will be opening up to the chat. If we don't have that many questions in the chat, I did select a few questions from the from some of the pre-submitted questions that we had when we did our work group. So if you received the questionnaire, we actually had many more questions that didn't make it into the questionnaire. So these are the ones that didn't get to make it in, but we do have 4 from the public. We are going to start again in a different order. So the first one is, currently, a lack of disability data impacts the ability to remove barriers for an equitable quality of life for those living with a disability. How would you work to ensure a disability identifier question is added to all city surveys, applications, and other forms where other optional demographic questions, for example, race, ethnicity, age, gender, LGBTQ identity, and income, are collected? Our first candidate is Laura Bustamante.
Well, they do this a lot on the federal level and a little on the state level, but the federal is very active in identifying, different classes of disability participants. So I would look to the federal guidelines and look to the federal laws as to what's required in the reporting, and especially with employers and their applications. So again, that's the city or the municipal organizations are not in line with the federal guidelines. And I think if we can get somewhat close to the federal guidelines, we can do a lot better or provide a lot better service to the disabled. So again, I would be looking to the federal guidelines and the mandates of the federal laws protecting the civil rights and reporting rights of the disabled. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next candidate is Matthew Gaona.
Yes, and to better understand the question is more about the lack of availability of data, correct?
Currently, a lack of disability data impacts the ability to remove barriers. So there is a lack of data.
So to address the lack of data, we can't truly analyze what city services need to go where without looking at all data points. So really to fully address everything that we have to solve, we need to increase the amount of data. So that would just be using existing city services and expanding current city services. Something that that has not been addressed in the previous term. So we would come into this term looking to directly solve that issue. We can employ college students for credit, volunteer, we have a lot of anxious volunteers ready. So, we should utilize our, community resources in gathering this information. Thank you.
Our next candidate is Roberto Trevino.
Thank you, Irma. I will work to ensure that our Chief Equity Officer and Equity Department has an outward focus on the community engagement and inclusion, much like the Spanish translation services, which I pushed to create in 2016. Inclusion should be part of all our engagement efforts, allowing all San Antonians to have dialogue with their government. Additionally, we passed policies to increase data sharing amongst all government entities. That includes the county, the appraisal district, SAWS, and CPS. And so I believe that we can utilize that to increase the amount of data to inform this topic. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Raymond Zavala.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Being a former federal employee, I value the fact that the federal government does, on their applications, does give every applicant a chance to be identified, whether it be a veteran or a disabled veteran. And that is what should have been done all along here in the city. Unfortunately, we have to arrive at this point in time to address it. I would like to see, and I would do this if I was elected, I would immediately gather with the rest of the council members and explain to them why we should do this, and that each disabled person that does apply does get a special rating. And that would equal out the playing field for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mario Bravo.
Thank you. So I would be, as your council member, I would be glad to sponsor a council consideration request requiring a question to be added to all city surveys. So that way we can begin to collect that data. In addition to that, there's a group called Community Information Now that operates out of UT Health School of Public Health. And their focus is on local data that's trustworthy, neutral, and timely. And I would reach out to them to see if there's any data they have that we can start with as a data set, and seek their assistance in best practices to be able to collect more data on the disability community and how we can collect the most information sooner, so that way we'll have a data set to work with that is useful to the entire community. Thank you
so much. Our next question is, how do you see your district office working better with our disability community and the city level? Our first candidate is Matthew Gaona.
I would look to increase the accessibility of our field office. Currently, the field office is a retrofitted fire truck station. It's kind of hard to navigate in and around. I can't imagine it being easily accessible. So, we could try to look maybe to another location, or, move stuff around. I know it's very crowded in there. It's very hard to do, but we can take these, you can take simple solutions or simple actions to complete these solutions. Again, with the downtown office, the construction around in and around the area makes it very inaccessible. So, we need to be taking in account, people who don't, our pedestrians when they are trying to access, our government buildings. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Roberto Trevino.
Thank you. Well, this is again the example I brought up in the beginning. It is a retrofitted fire station, but one of the best things about that is that it's a city-owned facility. So we use the money that we save on rent to make improvements to the building. The building has been a great place. We have basically looked at the building as a community center. And so that's really important to me. And as I mentioned, one of the very first things from almost day one, I made sure that the building was, as it was retrofitted to be fully accessible, not just part of it, but all of it. And you can enter from the front or the back with full accessibility. The place also allows us to have the ability to host meetings, to have gatherings, and it is very well situated in a good location in our district, which is easily accessible. It also provides a lot of space for outdoor events as well. But I want to also mention that we want to utilize a lot of our city tools and resources to provide some level of inclusion, resources that are at a disposal. I'm sorry?
Your minute's up.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry about that. Raymond Zavala.
Yes, ma'am. would you mind repeating the question one more time?
Yes, sir, of course. Let me go back down to that. It is, how do you see your district office working better with our disability community on the city level?
Yes, ma'am. I believe that the district office would be much more accessible to the persons with disabilities if they were to expand. The location that it's in right now, it's okay. You don't have enough parking space. So that means that if, like, for example, if I'm driving and I'm disabled and more people were to show up to speak with the council person, they would have a hard time parking. And so a lot of improvement needs to be done, and we definitely need to increase the accessibility with overhead cover as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mario Bravo.
Thanks. So as your council member, I'm only, as strong as my weakest link, and I'm only as good as my staff is. I need to have great staff, and they need to be informed on the issues just like myself. So I would invite Disability SA as experts on this issue to come in and put on a workshop for me and all of my staff to make sure that we understand all of your issues and understand how we can best serve your needs. Not only that, but in a collaborative approach, I would invite all the other council members and council staff to see if they would participate in that workshop as well, so that everybody could get trained up, because it's not just a matter of me and my one vote at council, but building consensus at City Hall and making sure everybody understands your issues and everybody is making sure that they're being more inclusive and more representative of the disability community.
Yes, great. Thank you. Lauro Bustamante.
Yes, I think one of the biggest problems that the constituents have is legal representation. I would set up a legal aid office in District 1 for District 1. It would provide services, legal services, free legal services, pro bono services for disability constituents that have problems with the administrative process or administrative tickets or administrative warnings, traffic tickets, family violence misdemeanors in municipal court. Also, I would provide education or referrals to civil rights violations, abuse violations, that sort of thing. I think the problems, I'm sorry.
Your time is up, sir.
Okay, thank you.
We received the question, how is a disabled child supposed to have accommodations made to his government-funded home now that he is in a larger wheelchair? Please tell us about the initiatives, programs, or policies you would initiate to ensure low-income families have access to resources that support accommodation renovations to government supplemental housing, if any. We will start with Councilman Trevino.
Thank you, Irma. And this is a good example, a good time to talk about the Under One Roof program that helps to keep people in their homes. Most importantly, we want to talk about protecting the existing homes and understanding the idea of universal design and what that means to make a place that is livable, accessible, and welcomes everybody, no matter what ability they are in. And so this is what's so critical about how we can create programs that can assist folks. If they're government funded housing, we can create codes that can help to outline some of these standards so that we can make sure that everybody is treated equitably.
Thank you, sir. Our next candidate is Raymond Zavala.
Thank you for the opportunity to answer this question. I would gather a group of contractors, and every contractor that the city hires needs to be fully vetted, because I've seen this in District 1, where a contractor went to help a senior citizen and they tore the place up and they just left. And the reasoning was, we're out of money. But when the senior citizen who's in a wheelchair can't get up her steps because they don't have a ramp, that's not just awful. It shouldn't be that way. So what I would do is I would create teams of contractors, vetted, insured, and make sure that each individual housing unit gets what they need, and send out somebody to do the final inspection. If it's approved, that would be great. If it's not, they're going to go back and redo it. Too many times contractors try to help out themselves by getting money from the city and then leave without completing the job.
Sir, your
So
time
that
is
would
up.
not happen with me. Thank you.
Thank you. Mario Bravo.
So I think this might be an opportunity where if we were to change the language in the city charter for future bonds to be able to allow for spending on affordable housing, I think that would be a larger program where we could get significant funding to be able to address this issue. So I'm willing to explore that and where else we can find funding.
Thank you, sir. Lauro Bustamante.
Again, I would look at it from the top down. I think the federal government has probably the best system for protecting the disability. Then we can look at the state protections, look at the Medicaid as a benefit, and then come look at the county, what they've done in this area. I think the municipal situation is lacking in this area, and I think we have to get help from federal, state, and county organizations in this area. And I think that's the best way to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Matthew Gaona.
Yes, to accommodate those with government housing, we really have to put pressure on the state government. Our state government is notoriously known for it, not really caring for, interests outside of oil and gas. So we need to put more pressure on the state government and our state reps as a city to get the funding that we deserve, to fix these issues where, people need to, accommodate their government housing. I see new housing projects from HUD being built on our city's west side, and just by the outside looks of it, these places don't look nearly accessible, and that kind of worries me. When we build affordable housing, are we truly making it inclusive for everybody and anybody that might live there?
Thank you, sir.
So, look for that. Thank you.
Thank you. We will be moving on to the last of the pre-submitted questions. Currently, VIA paratransit services cover only those living within 3/4 of a mile of a traditional bus line, and ride-sharing options are not accessible. Dependable transportation is a huge part of the difference in getting and keeping a job and/or getting an education to get the qualifications for employment. What legislation, policy, or use of city resources would you champion to influence the expansion of accessible, affordable, and efficient transportation options for those living with disabilities outside the mandated VIA Trans service areas, especially when looking outside 1604 in unincorporated cities within the city limits, more rural areas of the city, and those without bus lines? We will start with Raymond Zavala.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I'm glad you asked me that question because I have personally experienced that kind of thing where I've utilized the Via Trans, and they're good at picking you up. For example, if you have to go to dialysis, they'll get you there on time. But when it comes time to pick you up and take you back home, it takes forever. That's unacceptable, especially if it didn't happen to me, it happened to one of my family members. So I can tell you this, I started taking my family member to and from his appointments because the bus route was too far for him to walk. The timing was not right. It takes forever. So I would incorporate utilizing other transportation companies only after they've been vetted and bonded. Remember, it's a service they're providing for those that cannot help themselves. So they have to be top notch. Thank you.
sir. Mario Bravo.
So it's my understanding that Via with the Via Trans covers close to 97 or 98% of the counties. So I think that, you know, if there's just 2 or 3% that's not covered, then what we need to do is be proactive about trying to assist people in the disability community in living closer to finding housing options closer to the regular transportation lines. And Via Trans costs 7 times more per trip than the regular routes. So if we can get all affordable housing close to a regular route, that's going to make a difference. But in addition to that, I think that, you know, right now, a lot of people see Via as that's the transportation option if you can't afford to buy a car, or you can't afford anything else. And we need to get everybody riding the bus. So that way there's going to be more funding for the buses so we can expand the bus routes significantly further so that it reaches all parts of our county. And not just so that it reaches the other parts of our county, but with regular frequency. So it's more convenient as well.
Great. Thank you, sir. Lauro Bustamante.
Yes, that's a big problem. Via can't handle the load. I think we have to look at contracting out, subcontracting out. There's a lot of organizations out there. There's Lyft. There's taxis. You know, we can give the disabled persons vouchers for this mode of transportation. I think the future, I think we're looking at electric buses, electric cars, and this will be a lot cheaper than the system that we have now, and hopefully can expand out to the disabled in outlying areas. Also, the EMS can be called. There's also private ambulance companies that can be contracted. The resources are there. We just need to work on it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Matthew Gaona.
I would look to expand Via routes so that persons with disabilities can travel across the city in a timely manner. You know, you brought up the issue of employment, and you know, it's so critical to get to work on time, and we should not be making anyone's journey, you know, harder. And when we give people their time back, it gives them you know, in their independence back. You know, Raymond mentioned that Via Trans does not, you know, does not pick you up right after your appointment, you know, and that's just wasted time. We should be giving people their time back. And if we expand Via, you know, Via routes to, you know, be inside neighborhoods closer to, you know, offices, businesses, hospitals, and, you know, the like, we can make people's journey across the city easier. And that's what it should be, a truly inclusive city for mobility. The city council should work with Via to receive state and federal funding for a rapid transit rail system so that everybody can move across the city in a timely manner. And we would.
Your time is up.
Thank you.
Thanks. Finally, Roberto Treviño.
Thank you. Thank you, Irma. November 2020 ATD election brings more access to mobility on demand starting January 1st of 2026. What that means is more on-demand transportation, which utilizes accessible vehicles. It will increase access to more suburban part of VIA. We want to provide more frequent service in these areas that aren't receiving VIA Link services, shorter wait times, faster connections. We're proud that they're continuing to build on the first paratransit campus dedicated to VIA Trans off of 410 and Fredericksburg Road. But what can we do? We're going to continue to support them by creating an integrated sidewalk network and frequent, reliable public transportation options. This helps to lift everyone. This is about everyone's independence, and VIA provides that. VIA service expansion also means vehicles that meet accessibility. In the end, we really know that sidewalks need to be well maintained, and that's the partnership with the city. We want to know that they're wide enough to accommodate wheelchairs and mobility devices, recognizing the streets and sidewalks are for what they are. They're public spaces, supporting the continued service funding, like $10 million that the year the city currently provides VIA for increased frequency in their system.
Your time is up.
It was a lot.
Well, those were the pre-selected questions. Now we're going to go on into the chat before we go on into random questions that I have selected for you all. I wanted to check in. I know we had one of our participants right now that wanted to ask a question. Deanne Cuellar, are you available? Deanne, are you in the room? It looks like she stepped out. So her question was related to technology, so we will come back to her. We will go into the pre-selected questions unless anyone in the chat has a question. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat right now. Anna, if you can let me know if anything pops up in the chat. Okay, so what do you see as the major factors preventing members of the disability community from achieving economic resiliency? And what actions, if any, would you take to improve economic outcomes for members of the disability community? We start with Mario Bravo.
So this is an area that I don't have a lot of background on, and where I would lean on you as partners in the community. And it's just a standard practice that I'm going to have as a council member, is surrounding myself with experts in the community, whether experts are people who, with disabilities, or with family members with disabilities, or whether the experts are people who live in a neighborhood and they're experts in the challenges that they deal with in that neighborhood. I want to surround myself with those experts, bring people to the table, have conversations, and learn what your biggest challenges are and how to best address them, and take those issues and your voice to City Hall and work collaboratively to try and leverage all the city's resources in order to meet your needs.
Thank you so much. Lauro Bustamante.
Well, I've always been an advocate of education. I think education is the key. I think the education should be free, and it should also include skilled labor. I think there's a big demand for skilled labor, and there's a lot of areas where the disabled can be productive. Another area is giving incentives to employers to hire the disabled. I think, tax breaks and salary incentives to the employers to employ disability is the way to go. But my key advocate would be education and skills training for the disabled. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Matthew Gaona.
To increase, quality of life and economic, outcomes, we should be removing barriers to travel. So we would introduce legislation that would identify correct and prevent areas of the city from being inaccessible. Yeah. So we would look to expand where we can under the city's jurisdiction. And truly, mobility is one of the biggest factors in employment. If you can't get to your job, how can you even begin to put together? If you can't get to your job in a timely manner, how can you begin to put together the rest of your day and the rest of your week? So we would give people their time back, and we believe that will increase quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Roberto Treviño.
Thank you, Irma. I believe in improving and providing overall access to all facets. We want to make sure that all websites are accessible, which is often overlooked by a lot of entities, and want to make sure that diversity throughout the organizations is achieved, so that we can have voices that represent a number of challenges, especially the ones we don't know. We want to make sure that this is accessible to boards and commissions, that they are accessible to the council offices, and continue to work with great leaders like the folks at City Council that have helped represent District 1, like Ann Larmy. Again, we want to continue the great legacy of Judy Babbitt, who's long been an advocate for policy that helps to improve overall access to everyone of all abilities.
Thank you, sir. Raymond Zavala. Mr. Zavala, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. To me, the greatest obstacles for the people that are disabled in the disability community are lack of acceptance by the peers at a job, and lack of education and sensitivity towards the disabled person. I was fortunate enough to work for a millionaire for 17 long years before I retired. He neither treated me different, held me to the highest standards, and that is what employers need to understand, that a disabled person brings a lot of experience and devotion and timely attendance, where other people may not want to be dedicated to the job. All they want to do is draw a paycheck, but a disabled person is dedicated. So I think those two concerns, education and acceptance, if we work on that as a team.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Your time's up. We will go into the last of the pre-selected questions. Again, if people in the chat want to put questions in there, we will be able to ask questions and I will be able to read them. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat, and our assistant Anna would be able to let me know if there's anything in the chat. The question that we have is, when the vaccines begin to arrive in regular intervals, what will you do to ensure individuals living with disabilities in our community have equitable access and reasonable opportunity for receiving the vaccines? We will start now with Lauro Bustamante.
Yes, the disabled should have priority. They should go to the front of the line. Also, they should have in-home visits so they can get the vaccine. I think they absolutely have to be the #1 priority, because they're probably the most vulnerable for this devastating disease. So, I mean, I think it's pretty clear on that issue. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We will continue with Matthew Gaona.
Thank you. We definitely need to be working faster than we currently are to be getting these vaccines out. We need to be utilizing all city services, that we possibly can. That would include volunteers, and prioritizing those with prior conditions at the front of the line. We already see this happening, but we need to again further prioritize this. Vaccines are in limited numbers, so we are working. I believe the city, what it's doing currently is working at their best, but again, this needs to be top priority for those with prior health conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Irma, we have
Robert?
some questions in the chat when you have a chance.
Yes, thank you. Roberto Trevino.
Tomorrow, we're voting on a vaccine registry, and my goal is to ensure the registry is used to get vaccines to targeted populations like disabled San Antonians. I believe from the very beginning in a decentralized delivery, as we should have done from the very, very beginning, we should be going to the community, not expecting the community to come to us. This was demonstrated clearly during the storm when many, many vulnerable were stuck at home and they didn't know what to do. We need to create a better system that goes out to the community and finds those in need.
Thank you, sir. Raymond Zavala.
Yes, ma'am. I believe that we've waited way too long, as the councilman said. Somebody with common sense would have seen that coming from a long way. I think that registry should have already been in place, and that the firefighters be sent out to administer the vaccines to those that cannot travel. And there is a lot of people that cannot travel. So we need to improve our access to them by going to them, not like Mr. Trevino said, not them coming to us, but it's always that way. And we need to change that mindset, that we don't sit up here at the throne. We have to actually go down there to the villages and work with people. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mario Bravo.
I agree with Councilman Trevino that we need to go out to the community, and it's a matter of meeting them where they're at and having a more distributed system. I'm really proud that I did help with the stand-up of the mass distribution of the vaccine at the Alamo Dome, and the city only had 7 days notice to stand that up, and we were really short on volunteers, and I helped over the weekend before it opened. I helped recruit over 50 volunteers for that event, and so I also think that we should have a registry. I think we should have had the registry a long time ago. And, that if we had that registry, we would have some data where we could sort based on priorities and figure out, who, decide who should be moved to the front of the registry, and how do we get to them? How do we meet them where they're at? And take the vaccine to them as opposed to just vaccinating people who show up.
Great, thank you. We will now move on to questions in the chat. Our first one is going to be, do we do an injustice to people with disabilities by assuming they need only low-level job training rather than looking at them as having as much ability as anyone else, given the opportunity? Are we stereotyping them? Our first candidate will be Matthew Gaona.
Yes, I do believe that's often the case, that it is stereotyping. We heard earlier from a candidate that we need skill training, but again, they're just as equal as anyone else, as fully capable as anyone else. So again, we do see that stereotype, and we look to break that with providing high quality chances, such as internships within city departments that are prioritized to go to those with disabilities, so that we are working with the community to fully tackle the issues that our city faces. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Roberto Trevino.
Thank you. I think that something that we don't talk about enough is, and it is too easy to overlook, are the challenges that we don't personally face ourselves. And yes, that's what leads to stereotypes. but it also leads to misunderstanding. I think that there are some visible and not so visible disabilities that impact a lot of our population, and we need to be cognizant of that, and we need to be supportive in our community. And that's why understanding, all abilities is a path forward. Understanding that many people have different challenges, and surrounding yourself with a diversity of people that can help bring that voice to the table is so important.
Thank you, sir. Raymond Zavala.
Yes, ma'am. There is a stigma that the disabled person is not very well educated or is lacking in skills. But I can tell you that from personal experience, I remember working with a one-arm aircraft mechanic. He did a lot more than the other people with two arms. And what needs to be done is to eliminate the discrimination against the disabled community. Once we start doing that and start educating people that we are just as good as they are, if not better, then things will level off, and the high-paying jobs and training will benefit those that are in the disability community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mario Bravo.
Thank you for asking that question. I think absolutely it's, doing people it's stereotyping, doing the disability disservice. I think members of the disability community that definitely could benefit and would welcome high-level job training, and they would make our community stronger and help improve our economy. And so it's another matter of meeting people where they're at and giving them the job training that meets their needs and helps them most. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Lauro Bustamante.
Yes, we have a lot of agencies and laws and anti-discrimination laws that protect the disabled. And again, I would set up a legal representative station, a legal aid station, a public defender to guide these people to those laws that protect them, and the agencies that enforce those laws. And I think with my expertise in laws and legislature and civil rights and human rights, I think I can guide my district to a better future, or a less discriminative future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We will move on to the second question in the chat. Will San Antonio ever invest into an efficient train system? We start with Roberto Trevino.
Thank you. In 2015, initiative requiring voter approval for the streetcar and light rail projects was on the ballot, and it was approved. Charter Amendment 1 required voter approval of any proposed streetcar or light rail project in the city throughout the city. This amendment was put on the ballot through a successful initiative petition organized by a group called Streetcar Vote Coalition. I think what we want to look at are as many options as we have available to us, like advanced rapid transit and other potential modes of transportation to help get us there. We won't stop looking at that. Of course, we just got a new transportation director to allow us to look at micromobility and complete streets, so that we have a truly connected network of infrastructure.
Thank you, sir. Raymond Zavala.
Yes, ma'am. I can tell you this about the streetcar project. The Tulsa, Oklahoma, Kansas City, Kansas, they all bid into that streetcar idea. They're still paying for something that's still on the drawing board, and very few rails have been laid down. What we need to do is this, or what I would suggest doing is this. We need to hold VIA accountable with more routes and encourage people to take the bus instead of taking the bringing their cars down. Parking is at a premium right now. When you pay $20 or $30, for parking, that's insane. So if you want to have overhead rail, I suggest you take a ride down there or a trip down to Monterrey, Mexico. They have a brilliant idea. The doors open, you get in, you pay your 75 cents, you get in, doors closed, goes from one end of town to the other. You'll be
Thank
there.
you.
Thank you.
Mario Bravo.
I would love to have a modern public transportation system and would entertain any option, including light rail. I think there are definitely some challenges there with our city being as spread out as it is. Another challenge is that we've had half the funding for our transit agency. Historically, we had half the funding that Dallas, Houston, and Austin did. That's going to be changing here in several years after the workforce development, not property tax, but the portion of the sales tax will transition over to transit. But it's, there are challenges. We never found out exactly why that wasn't on the table when Connect SA was proposed. And I'd like to learn more about what the advantages versus disadvantages are. At the end of the day, it's not about whether you have a train system or not. It's about whether you have an efficient public transportation system. And that would be my goal. And again, just like in any other situation, I would rely on the expert studies and all options on the table. Let's see how we can best meet that goal.
Thank you so much. We will continue the question with Lauro Bustamante.
The bureaucracy and the greed is tremendous in that area. I think we're way behind the times in transportation. I think I've traveled pretty much the world, and I've seen some transportation systems that just fantastic, and they solve the problems. Free transportation, rapid transit. We have Tesla in Austin. They're doing tunnels. They're doing fast rails, solar panels, electric cars, electric trucks. We need to cut through the red tape, and we need to fast track our transportation system and get up to date with the rest of the world. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Matthew Gaona.
I totally agree with Laura and Mario. They're right on. San Antonio, in order to become a world-class city, needs world-class public transportation, and that means a subway or SkyTrain system like every other major city on Earth. We're the 7th largest city in the United States, and we do not have a rail transit system. We were given 2 subpar plans, one in 1990, 2000, that was pretty subpar, and again in 2015 they came with a subpar streetcar proposal. We need heavy rail or medium rail. I know light rail is banned, so to work around that ban, we can go heavy and medium rail. We need to be looking at subways that can carry a lot of people at one time very quickly. With the light rail system, that is virtually impossible, and it adds to congestion in the downtown system when they are riding alongside the cars. We need to be getting people out of the streets.
Thank you. And again, for our participants, if you want to ask a question, you can put it in the chat, or you can send it to me via direct message. We will continue with the question that I have in regards to the digital divide. And while we're doing that, if you have any questions for the candidates, please put them in the chat and I will read them out for you. Our question is, what experience do you have with accessible technology? We start with Mr. Zavala. Mr. Zavala?
Yes, I'm right here.
Okay.
I have taken courses in computer science. I am well versed, and I have also taken part in classes for my teams that I coached because I wanted them to be up to speed in school. And it worked out very well. So I can hold my own or with the best of them. And I believe that everybody, including the senior citizens, should partake in some kind of high-tech education. And it should be free of charge to the seniors. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Bravo, we continue with you.
I don't have any experience with accessible technology, and I'd welcome any opportunities to learn more about it from you if there are things that you think I need to know.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Bustamante.
Yeah, accessible technology. Well, the internet is the best educational tool that we have available right now. The internet should be free. Computers should be free or at a very low cost. Computers should be free to the students. They should be free to the educating skilled workers. I mean, YouTube has a tremendous resource for technology. So that's the best bet right now is the internet. You can just about find anything at the internet. I can answer any question within 10 minutes searching the internet. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Gaona.
My experience with accessible technology, I don't know if I'm misunderstanding the question, but riding on the Via Bus, when you clock in, people who are sight impaired can click the new readers on the bus and are able to come on through. So and also whenever people in wheelchairs come on the bus, that we see the operator pause and lock them in and then take off again. So maybe we can find a way to make that operation quicker, using technology. So again, accessible technology can be expanded and it should be expanded. A lot of San Antonio is very low tech, so we would. Thank you.
Councilman Trevino.
Thank you. We just approved digital kiosks, legal kiosks that will be located in libraries, community centers, and other accessible locations, and will connect folks within the digital divide in legal and financial assistance. We're doing, I think, about 10. We've also incorporated Spanish translation services as well. There's equipment needed for that. Worked a lot with the Digital Inclusion Alliance to provide some support for the digital divide. And personally, as an architect, I am currently finishing up a house for somebody who is 100% disabled. And we incorporated many technologies into that household that feel like they're a part of the architecture, but made it possible to keep that quality of life that we all expect in those homes. This is such an important part of utilizing technology, virtual reality, tactile technology that allows people to be able to live a life that is
Thank you, Councilman.
high quality. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, for people viewing, you can leave a message in the chat if you have a question for our candidates. I will continue with pre-selected questions. If you want to have a question, please put in the chat and I will ask it for you. We will continue with this question. According to the San Antonio Court of Ordinance, Section 29-11, it is the duty of any property owner to maintain the sidewalks, parkway, curb, and driveway abutting said property in a good and safe condition, free from any defects and hazards. how would you address the challenges for building and repairing sidewalks to improve the walkability and accessibility of our city for those who depend on pedestrian modalities? We will start with Mr. Bravo.
Thanks. I think that, the city should be maintaining sidewalks, and, we have built out a lot of sidewalks, and we've neglected to offer sidewalks to a lot of people. And, I feel like every council member campaigns on they're gonna give you sidewalks, or they're gonna repair your sidewalks. And then when they get into office, they'll say, sorry, we didn't get to you this year. That wasn't in the budget. We'll get you next time. But it is in the budget. It's just a matter of spending priorities. Just look at how we spend money at City Hall. They spent $39 million to remodel their own council offices and $6 million on sidewalks. And so the money is there, and we just have to, it's the taxpayers' money. It needs to be spent in a way that it's meaningful at the neighborhood level.
Thank you so much. Mr. Bustamante.
Infrastructure is a big problem right now, and it's a big problem everywhere. So I think one of the things that we should be looking at is the unemployment. The unemployment is also at an all-time high. So we can employ a lot of people to do a lot of infrastructure work, to do repairs, to do patch-ups. I think that the infrastructure work is tremendous, and it's going to demand a lot of manpower. If we keep our youth busy and keep the unemployed busy, then I think everybody will benefit. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Gaona.
Public Works should definitely be taking care of the city sidewalks. If it's up to homeowners to do it, we're going to have a system of, which we currently have a system of broken, jagged, disconnected sidewalks. It's very difficult for pedestrians to, bike riders, everybody to, access the city when major arteries and streets are, disconnected. You have to, put yourself into hazardous conditions, such as, walking in the road. I saw, just outside the library the other afternoon, a man having to ride his wheelchair in the street because the sidewalk was just in inadequate condition. So, me, myself, I've, hurt myself, riding my scooter on the sidewalk. It's just ridiculous. You can't trust the sidewalk. So, as a biker or as a person who rides a scooter, you have to ride in the street, and that's putting yourself into extra hazardous conditions from people who are driving, not being friendly. So, we would look to solve that. Thank you.
Yeah. Councilman Trevino.
Thank you. I agree that many council members promise more sidewalks, but actually, I have had success in delivering. Promises are just words, but it takes a deep understanding of the issue to come to a real solution. And most folks never even knew about 2911 until I brought it up. This was in our UDC, but that's not the real reason that we're not fixing sidewalks in our city. The real reason was semantics. It turns out that we did not fix sidewalks because repair and maintenance is not something that can be utilized under our debt obligation. I worked with Ben Gorzel, our chief financial officer, to unlock millions of dollars. And now we're repairing more sidewalk than anybody has ever done it. In fact, it's unlocked it for the entire city, not just District 1. And if you know District 1, you know that this was the original part of the city. We have more older sidewalks that need fixing, and we're fixing them. And so I'm really, really proud of what we're doing. This has been a key issue, but it's great. Also been a symptom of how we should tackle infrastructure. As an architect, I've actually built sidewalks. Thank you.
Mr. Zavala.
Yes, ma'am. Please repeat the question one more time, please.
Yes, of course. I know it's a lengthy one, so let me repeat it. According to the San Antonio Code of Ordinance, Section 2911, it is the duty of any property owner to maintain the sidewalks, parkway, curb, and driveway abutting said property in a good and safe condition, free from any defects and hazards. How would you address the challenges for building and repairing sidewalks to improve the walkability and accessibility of our city for those who depend on pedestrian modalities?
That's a very good question, and I think I have the right answer. First of all, it takes money. The councilman is right. It does take money, but we have gotten to the point where we have a known nonprofit receive a pay raise every year, and we still have the problem that it was meant to deter. So I would suggest that we start cutting all those nonprofits that have been on the city council welfare rolls for over 10 years, start cutting them in half until we wean them off, and take that money and take it and put it into sidewalk repair. I would also have code compliance note as they drive by, like they're supposed to, make note of which sidewalks, what streets needs repair. I know in District 1, there are several streets near Fresno and Blanco. The odd numbers got the sidewalks, but the even numbers didn't. What's wrong with that picture? People
Thank
are
you,
upset. Thank you.
We have a question from the chat. This question is, can you explain how renewable energy from CPS would be beneficial to San Antonio? We start with Mr. Bustamante.
Yeah. I'm a strong believer in renewable energy independent of the grid. I think solar panels on every home and batteries in every home to store the energy can take them off the grid and have the grid as a backup. That's the answer, and that's what's going to happen. The sooner we get to that point, the better off everybody's going to be. Again, the bureaucracy and the greed is just tremendous in that area, which is really hindering us. So I would propose for District 1 is incentives for homeowners to have panels on their roofs and batteries in their homes and become independent of the grid. Thank you.
Matthew Gaona.
Renewable energy would be beneficial to San Antonio because it would be free energy. We all saw that our energy bills last February skyrocketed because of using outdated technologies, fossil fuels, such as natural gas and coal. So, right there, we would have energy in the winter. Don't let any of our government officials tell you otherwise, that solar panels won't work in the snow, or our wind turbines froze in the snow. Renewable energy is the future. Like Roller said, the sooner we go, the sooner we take the initiative and invest in renewables, the better.
Thank you, sir. Roberto Treviño.
Thank you. I think we need to look at this as something that is about the built environment. And so energy is about how we can, in many cases, is about how we cool and heat our homes. So I do believe that renewable energy is critical, and it's very important for San Antonio. It's also just as important to build resilient housing to do just that. The Under One Roof program is a great example where the high reflectance roofs help to offset a lot of the heat that then has to be handled with energy to cool. We want to plant more trees. We started the tree fund for San Antonio after the tornado that hit in 2017. We believe that we got to diversify and look at this holistically. This is about saving energy as much as creating energy. Thank you.
Thank you. Raymond Zavala.
Yes, ma'am. I just returned from a trip to Los Angeles. I went on a fact-finding mission there, and I happened to pass by all those turbine fans, and even in Iran, Texas, they have turbine fans. What should have been done to those turbine fans is to use the concept that they use on propeller aircraft. They should have had a heated rubber boot so that they wouldn't freeze. But nobody thought about that. But renewable energy is here to stay. We also need to start a program where in District 1, there's a lot of older homes. There's a lot of poverty homeowners that cannot afford it. But we need to create a program where we go in and insulate the houses so that way they maintain their coolness and also the warmth in their homes. I have not seen that yet, or I have not heard that being proposed. Putting on a roof, it's great, but you need to insulate the inside too. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mario Bravo.
Thank you. I used to serve on ACOG's Air Improvement Resources Advisory Committee until it was dissolved when the governor vetoed our air quality funding for the region, but we don't meet federal air quality standards here in San Antonio. And if we were to produce more renewable energy, then we would be burning less coal, burning less natural gas, and we would improve the air quality in San Antonio. The problem is that CPS Energy's leadership culture is pro-fossil fuels, and they always talk about the positive benefits of fossil fuels, and they talk about the negative. They always talk about the cons when it comes to renewable energy. And recently, when I was the chair of the environmental stakeholder meetings, Paula Gold Williams, their leader, tried to hold renewable energy, a request for proposals for renewable energy hostage, and wasn't going to move forward in releasing that RFP unless everybody was on board with letting them buy a new or lease a new natural gas plant. And that's the wrong way. I'm the only person running that has a track record of going toe to toe with CPS Energy leadership and holding them accountable.
Thank you, Mr. Bravo. All right, we're going to maybe have one or two more questions before we wrap it up. We should be ending by 8 o'clock, and I'd like to start on time and end on time. We have this question. What types of sensitivity training do you think community-facing employees and officials should have around the topic of disability? Matthew Gauna, we will start with you.
I remember from earlier that Mario mentioned that Disability SA come and host a workshop for city employees. So, I would be welcome to that as well, and we should be looking to do that for every city department, not just, us, fancy council members, people from solid waste, people from, every department, participating in this, because we can truly change the culture of the way we think about, this line of thinking. So we can change it for the better if we are, leading the way with our city employees to be models for the rest of our citizens in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Roberto Treviño.
Thank you. I believe that it starts with people that can speak to the lived experience. In fact, our next pedestrian mobility officer should be someone with disabilities that can speak to that. I want to have more people in those roles that are building the infrastructure, building the potential circumstances that people are in, that actually have that lived experience. And so we need to look more towards that and understand that we've got to have that lived experience as part of the training. And so it's not just about training, it's about having people within the office that can speak to the issue.
Thank you. Raymond Zavala.
Yes, ma'am. Having been a Boy Scout leader and coach for nonprofits, I had the pleasure of having kids with disabilities play on my teams. And the one thing that I taught them was, you're no different than anybody else. And those that did not have the disability learned that from me, because I told them, today It might be somebody else. Tomorrow, it might be you or one of your family members. Lead by example. Treat everybody the way you want to be treated. And I believe that a disabled person should be the primary instructor in sensitivity training, and that this training should occur once every 6 months, because people rotate, they quit, and you need to remind people of the sensitivity towards others.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Mario Bravo.
Will you please repeat the question?
Yes, of course. What types of sensitivity training do you think community-facing employees and officials should have around the topic of disability?
Well, I definitely think we should have sensitivity training around the topic of disability. I'm not an expert in what that would look like or how, what best practices are. I think that, my approach is let's try and de-emphasize politics and how we move forward as a city by looking at make data-driven decisions, evidence-based best practices, national best practices. And so I would look at that and use that to inform how we could move forward, as well as, sitting with the disability SA and hearing you out on how you think it could best be executed.
Thank you. And finally, Laura Bustamante.
I think sensitivity training or social training or dealing with people training is sorely needed, especially in our police department. I've handled a lot of cases where we've got mentally disabled people that are resisting arrest and going through the system and for really no good reason and very devastating results. In District 1, we'll have a public defender to deal with these insensitive public officials that cause more damage than good because they've not been trained to deal with the mentally disabled. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We should be getting the breakout alert pretty soon, so I wanted to give you all a warning about that. I do want to thank all the candidates for your time today and the participants for also providing questions in the chat.